At first glance, being Wolverine seems like a dream come true. Super strength, healing factor, unbreakable claws, a legendary warrior who fears nothing. But when you dig deeper, you realize that being Wolverine isn't a blessing, it's a curse. And today, we're going to break down exactly why being Wolverine would absolutely suck. Let's start with the healing factor. It's the thing that makes Wolverine nearly indestructible. The reason he's survived countless battles, explosions, and even being torn to shreds. But there's a massive downside to it. He feels everything. Every bullet that rips through his skin, every knife that plunges into his body, every bone that shatters, it all hurts. His body heals. But that doesn't mean the pain magically disappears. If anything, it's worse, because instead of staying down and resting, Wolverine is expected to keep fighting, to keep pushing through, no matter how brutal the injury. Most people take weeks or even months to recover from serious wounds, but Logan has to stand up and keep going almost instantly. Imagine breaking your ribs, regenerating them in seconds, and then immediately taking another hit to the same spot. That's his reality, every single day. And then there's the fact that his healing factor won't let him die. Most people fear death, but for Wolverine, death would be a mercy that's forever out of reach. No matter how much he suffers, no matter how much he wants it all to end, his body refuses to let go. He's been through hell, burned alive, torn apart, crushed, but he always comes back. Some people might call that a gift, but really it's a curse. Because if there's no way out, it means he's trapped in an endless cycle of pain, violence, and suffering. And speaking of suffering, we have to talk about what's possibly even worse than the physical pain, his memories, or rather, his lack of control over them. Wolverine's past is a fragmented nightmare. Thanks to years of government experiments, brainwashing, and mind wipes, Logan barely remembers who he is. His memories come in flashes, hazy, painful glimpses of a life that's been stolen from him. Picture waking up one day and realizing you were turned into a living weapon against your will. That your own hands have been responsible for deaths you don't even remember. That you've been used, manipulated, and forced to kill again and again, and there's nothing you can do to change it. His entire existence is a mystery, and even when he finally starts piecing things together, all he finds is more tragedy. But let's say he could deal with the pain and the memory loss. Even then, there's something even worse that makes his life unbearable. His immortality. His healing factor keeps him young while everyone around him ages and dies. Every friend, every lover, every teammate he's ever cared about, gone. He's lived for centuries, outlasting every relationship he's ever had. Imagine finding love, forming a deep connection with someone, only to watch them grow old and die while you stay the same. Imagine seeing your friends perish in battle, knowing you'll be the only one left standing. Even in a world full of mutants and gods, Wolverine is one of the few who's truly eternal. And eternity is lonely. Jean Grey? Dead. Silver Fox? Dead. His own children? Either dead or out to kill him. The X-Men? He's seen them fall over and over again. No matter how many times he tries to start over, it always ends in loss. His long life means he's doomed to experience heartbreak again and again and again. And the worst part? He never truly moves on. He carries that pain with him forever because his healing factor won't even let him grow old and forget. Every loss stays fresh, every tragedy lingers, and there's no escape from it. And then there's the rage, the berserker inside him, the thing that makes him an unstoppable force, but also makes him dangerous to everyone around him. Wolverine isn't just a warrior, he's a weapon of mass destruction. He tries to control it, to be better, but when the claws come out, so does the animal inside. He's killed people he didn't mean to. He's lost control at the worst moments. He's done things he can't take back. No matter how much he fights it, he always feels like a monster in his own skin. He wants to be a hero, but deep down he knows he's just as much a threat as the enemies he fights. And because of that, Wolverine can never really have a normal life. He tries. Oh, he tries. He's left the X-Men, lived in the wilderness, even attempted to settle down, but violence always finds him. No matter where he goes, no matter how much he wants peace, the world won't let him have it. He'll always be dragged back into the fight, forced to use his claws, forced to be the killer everyone expects him to be. And when you put all of this together, you start to see that being Wolverine isn't cool. It's a nightmare. He doesn't just deal with emotional pain. He's physically suffered more than almost any other superhero. Think about it. Wolverine has been dismembered, burned alive, crushed under mountains, torn apart by the Hulk, thrown into the sun, and even nuked. Each time, his body regenerates, but the pain never stops. He has no choice but to endure it, knowing that even if his enemies rip him apart, he'll be back, feeling every agonizing second of it. And let's talk about his claws for a second. They might look badass, but imagine what it would actually feel like to have 6 massive blades ripping through the skin of your hands every time you fight. Every time Logan unsheathes his claws, he's essentially stabbing himself. Sure, he heals instantly, but it's still pain. Pain that he experiences every time he's forced into battle. And since he fights constantly, that means he's in a near constant state of self-inflicted agony. Let's not forget the way people fear him. Wolverine has spent his life fighting for the X-Men, for mutant rights, for humanity itself. But because of his reputation, people see him as a monster. Governments have hunted him down, enemies have manipulated him into doing their dirty work, and even his own allies sometimes hesitate to trust him. Despite all he's done, despite all the sacrifices he's made, he'll always be seen as a dangerous weapon first and a person second. And here's the worst part. There's no escape. He can't just quit and walk away. He can't hang up his claws and retire. The world won't let him. His own biology won't let him. And that means he's doomed to keep fighting, to keep losing people, to keep living in pain, for as long as his body decides to keep going. So let's recap. Unimaginable pain? Check. A past filled with torment? Check. An eternity of loneliness? Check. The constant fear that he'll lose himself to rage? Check. No real chance at happiness? Absolutely. Wolverine isn't just one of the most tragic superheroes. He might just be the most cursed. Because when you look past the powers, the claws, and the badass fights, what you're left with is a man who's trapped in an endless cycle of suffering. Being Wolverine doesn't make you a hero. It makes you a prisoner of your own pain, your own past, and your own immortality. And that is why being Wolverine would absolutely suck.